Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to make a Silky Ceramide Facial Cream, and I'm also going to be talking to you a little bit about some things I no longer do as a small business owner. In this video today, I'm going to be going over my full visual process and step-by-step tutorial of how to put together this beautiful ceramide cream. And if you would like the full written recipe with full step-by-step detailed instructions, head on over to my Patreon campaign. This will be published over there at just the $5 level. I'll go ahead and place the link to my campaign in the description box below. All right, let's get started. All right, so this formula was born out of kind of a necessity to start using up supplies and materials that I already have on hand. One of my goals in 2025 was to use up as much as I can in my supply closet before I start buying new and exciting supplies and materials. And so hopefully you guys have a lot, if not all of these ingredients on hand, because we're going to be using some ingredients that I've been using quite a bit of lately. And I'm really loving experimenting with ingredients that I already have on hand to make new things. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and weigh off some distilled water. This is an emulsified product. We're going to be making 100 grams today. Next, we're going to be adding in a humectant. So today for our humectant, we're going to be using some propanediol 1,3. This is going to help to draw moisture to the skin and get it locked in without sometimes that sticky feeling you can get with glycerin, especially in facial creams. This is also going to bring some emolliency to the final product. So it's going to have really good like spreadability on your face. That's super important because you don't want to drag the delicate facial skin. So we're going to go ahead and weigh this in. And then as we're moving into the fall and winter months, I try to reassess my business plans a little bit. I do that in the upcoming fall and winter months, and then I also do that at the start of the new year. So I thought you guys might want to hear a little bit about some things that as a small business I no longer do and how my small business has kind of evolved. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about is in the beginning of my journey. Now a lot of you might know that I've been selling candles since 2001. More consistently in the later years, but I did start selling candles in 2001, so a really long time. And then my cosmetic soap journey and the selling of those products started almost 11 years ago. We're coming up on 11 years, so we've been doing that for 10 years. And when I launched my cosmetics and soaps and I started to sell those to the public, I thought I had to do everything. So that meant getting a website, getting an Etsy store, selling at markets, going to craft fairs, if I got any offers for wholesale or consignment, or to be in a store. I really tried to do it all, and I thought that I had to do it all. And over the years I've learned that there are some things eventually that you will have to step away from because it is impossible to do it all. As your business is growing, you kind of have to choose a focus. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about things that I no longer do anymore. And we're going to first start by weighing in some argan oil into this container here too. So you'll notice that I'm putting the oil and the water in the same container, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But when I first started selling cosmetics and soaps and lotions and all that, I had a goal to get into stores, and also I never really turned down any wholesale opportunities that came my way. And back in 2017, moving into 2018, I found myself in a consignment situation in 2 stores, and then I found myself in a wholesale situation in another store, and I had another store where I was doing a sort of a consignment. I didn't pay to be there, but I paid a percentage of each sale went back to the store. And that was super exciting back when I was doing that. I remember feeling really excited about, wow, I'm doing really well. I'm in all these stores. And then there was another one where this was the best case scenario. I was in another store that was in a really kind of higher end part of town in my area. And this particular store bought my product outright, not at an increased price, not at wholesale. It was very close to my retail price, and that store owner would buy my stuff at practically my retail price and then mark it up and resell it. Well, that was a major benefit for me because she was buying quite a bit of my product to place in a little pop-up in her store. And so that was a really good case scenario. But as the year progressed, there was a few things that was going on that made me think I needed to stop doing that. As I got closer to 2018, I was just really starting to hone in on what I was making, selling products versus my cost. And what I was realizing as a mid-size seller, meaning I still don't sell, big time. I don't sell a whole bunch of product, but enough to make money on. So what I was finding is that my profits weren't as high as I thought that they should have been, being in these stores, all these stores. And so the other thing that was kind of annoying me at that time was managing and maintaining everything that was at the stores. So when you place your items in a store, it's your responsibility to go check on them, replenish them. And every time I would go in, I would find that they were just not in the condition that I left them in. And that's just because people walk in the store and they pick things up. And anyway, I felt that my products were starting to degrade a little bit faster than they should have as well, just from all the handling. So that also equals loss, because there's some things then you have to take off the shelf. So I was starting to notice that, and I was starting to notice that it wasn't balancing out. So for instance, my cost to be in the stores was not benefiting me. I was basically breaking even in a lot of these stores. I was paying as much as I was selling product. So we tried that for like a whole year just to kind of give it a go and see how it was working. And it just ended up being one of those things where I really had to give it some thought. And I had to think about just reassessing my business plan a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and weigh off the next ingredient here. And this is an ingredient that you guys should be familiar with by now because I use it quite a bit. But I have this big bag of it that I'm trying to go through. So I'm using it and experimenting with it in different products. So this is Jeequat. I got this at Lotion Crafter, and it's a combination emulsifier and cationic ingredients that go in there to make it feel very soft, silky, and conditioned. So you will see this in hair conditioners. You can see this in body lotions, body butters, hair conditioners. It's very popular. And so today we're using it in a facial cream, and it's really nice in a facial cream. I was a little bit in experimenting, didn't really know how this was going to turn out, but I think my final draft of this formula is really nice. I've been using this cream day and night on my face, but it's acetyl alcohol, bihydramonium chloride, cocamidopropylbutane, and sorbitan laurate, and it does a great job of emulsifying. You can put everything into the same container, and it has a very nice silky conditioning skin feel. So we're going to go ahead and weigh this off, and it's kind of nice because you don't have to individually, since everything's already in here, your thickeners, your emulsifiers, your cationic ingredients, you don't have to weigh off separately or try to find the correct ratio of those ingredients. It's all in one. So this is an excellent ingredient to have around if you don't have it, and it's pretty inexpensive. So I'm back to the business story here. I was starting to reassess my business plan and trying to decide what I wanted to do. And I was, like I mentioned, I was doing a wholesale. I had a few wholesale accounts, one in a store. And again, it was kind of turning out to be, I was feeling like my cost to make it versus the cost for the wholesaler to purchase it was not balancing out. I wasn't really making money on it the way that I thought that I was going to. So that had me kind of reassessing things. And of course, whenever you make a big decision, it's a little bit scary. But towards the end of 2017, what I decided I wasn't going to do anymore is I was going to pull all my wholesale accounts and I was going to pull all my product out of all the stores that I had going. Except the one that was buying my product at almost retail price. I'm going to go heat this up till everything is melted down and warmed through, and I'll bring you right back. All right, everything is thoroughly warmed up. I'm going to give this a little bit of a stir by hand first. You want to make sure and get this mixture to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And I think I may be a little bit warmer than that. Let's go ahead and take the temperature. Yeah, well, actually I'm sitting right at 160, so that's perfect. Yes. Okay, so in moving closer to 2018, I decided I was just going to go ahead and pull everything out. And that was scary because I felt like the stores, in the beginning when I had my stuff in the store, I felt obligated to do it like I told you before. And part of that was because I wanted exposure. But I decided that I could probably try to get exposure in other ways that would mean I'm not losing money. So I gave the stores notice and everything that I would be taking everything out at the first of the year. And that really was a relief when I came to that conclusion that I needed to do that. It was a bit of a relief. All right, so we're going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a blend with my immersion blender. All right. So we're going to allow this to cool down. And it's, very watery thin right now because it's still hot, but we're going to allow this to cool down. And then we have some cool down ingredients that we'll be putting in, including that lovely Ceramide Complex. So the argan oil in here, in combination with the beautiful emollient propanediol and the Jeequat cationic ingredients, just makes a very, very silky smooth facial cream that kind of sinks right into your skin. And you don't notice any white streaking. It just is lovely. And it kind of leaves your skin just feeling very balanced and moisturized without a greasy feeling left behind. So anyway, I felt really good about pulling out of the stores once I made that final decision and decided I wasn't going to be doing any more wholesale. And so what that allowed me to do moving into 2018 was to really start to focus on the things that worked for me specifically. So I started to really kind of work on my website, work on my products, and also my kids were a lot younger at that time too. And so what that did was allow me more time. I was feeling a little bit torn. I was still, a lot of you guys know I was a elementary school teacher at the time too, and I was still teaching full time and trying to build this business. And so I was feeling really torn with, raising my family and all of that, that the demands were just getting too high. So that was probably why also it felt like a relief just to pull out of the stores and start to really hone in and focus in on things that were working for me. So that's not to say that it's not good to wholesale and it's not good to be in stores. If that's something that you're doing and it's working for you, by all means, you should continue to do it. This is just a little bit of my story and also just a reminder to focus in on your small business. You really want to focus in on the things that are working for you. You don't want to focus in on those things that are no longer serving your business. So whatever that might be for you. And there's a few other things I can talk about in a future videos. There's a few other things that I gave up and didn't do anymore, that I don't do anymore. But that was kind of the first time I really sat and reassessed, like, okay, what do I need to do here? And it ended up being the best decision. And since then, you know, I've gotten wholesale offers. People ask me if I do it, or consignments type things. And my answer since 2018 has always been, unfortunately, we don't do that anymore. Unfortunately, that's not something that my business does anymore. So we just focus on really working on getting the website looking good and putting good products on there, and trying to sell things that people want to purchase versus maybe things that we really like. So I try to sell things that are good sellers for me versus things that I think should sell well, if that makes sense. So we can talk about that in a future video, but I would love to know what you guys maybe don't do as small business owners anymore, or maybe something that you've evolved out of as you've grown, or if you're new here, if you're a new small business owner, maybe if you have questions, leave everything in the comments below. I'd be happy to see where you are in your journey. Just to see what other people are doing, and if you've had the same experience as me, just to validate that, that's awesome as well. And there'll be other things we can talk about too in future videos. So let me know if you want me to, what other small business topics you guys want me to talk about in future videos as well. I mean, there's so many we can talk about. Things that I used to sell that I don't sell anymore. We can discuss mistakes and things that I've made that have helped me learn, but all of these things have been great learning experiences as well. Okay, so we have a few cool down ingredients here that we're going to start to add in. And the first one is going to be fragrance, because we can add the fragrance in when it's a little bit warmer, and we're still sitting at right around 130 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and add in some fragrance oil. And right now I'm just going to go ahead and add everything in and stir it by hand. I'm adding just a tiny bit of fragrance oil to help this. You don't have to add fragrance oil. You can add this back in and use a little bit more argan oil if you want, or you can use essential oil. I like putting a tiny bit of fragrance in facial care products because I feel like it helps them smell a little bit more fresh. So we're going to be using Coconut Sands by Hive and Honey, just a little bit. This is a really good coconut smell. So as you're moving along on your small business journey, give yourself permission to think about those things and not be scared to take those steps in your business, to just get away from the things that are no longer serving you. I know I've gotten pretty good at that over the years. There was a period of time where I would go to make these decisions and I would run it by my husband, and he's definitely a lot more cautious than I am when it comes to making business decisions. So he's always helping me to look at pros and cons and things like that. So, you know, if you have someone you can talk to about these things too, that also helps as well. And we're going to go ahead and read the temperature here. So my formula looks like it's right around 120. Check down here. Yeah, I'm going to give this just a little bit more time to cool down before we add in any more cool down ingredients, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, we are sitting right around 110 degrees now, Fahrenheit. 105, 110 degrees. Once you get past that kind of foam layer on the top from the stick blending, I always try to put my thermometer down below as well, just to get a more accurate read. So regarding the wholesale stuff, like I was saying, this is something that can and does work for a lot of people. So it's not to say stop doing it. It's just to say, for me personally, I think for anyone that's got like a mid-sized business where they're, you know, not selling so much product, a lot, and I can't even really give you an example of like what that is. That's kind of different for everybody depending on where you live, your demographic and all that. But I never could justify, after I stopped doing wholesale, that ended up being a great choice for me. I could never then go back to it, because what I found out was for mid-sized kind of makers like me, I was never going to be able to make money on wholesale, because wholesalers want to buy your product for half or 2/3 less than what you would retail it at. So, or even 60% less than what you would retail it out is pretty typical. And what I was finding is I could never buy my raw materials and supplies in a bulk quantity enough to bring my costs down. And I don't even really have the space to scale a business like that where I am currently. So what I kind of determined was I was never going to get to that point where I was able to purchase enough bulk materials and supplies to get my cost down enough to then sell it to a wholesaler. So it's very, very difficult. What I found for people in my range of sales, it's very, very difficult to retail and wholesale. I've kind of come to the conclusion that you're either one or the other. So let me know in the comments too if you think that that's also true. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add in here is some Dimethicone Satin. This is a beautiful ingredient that keeps your hair and your skin feeling really silky. It's just got a very satiny touch to it. A little bit makes a big difference. And again, this is great for facial creams because just the skin feel is so luxurious. And also, if you're in a consignment type situation, or you're paying to be in somebody else's store, or you're giving them a percentage of your sales, sometimes it's a percentage of sales and you're paying a little bit of rent space. Really take a look at your sales and what you're doing at that particular store. Really run your numbers and make sure it's worth it for you. And it's not to say that you're going to have, all bad months or whatever. Sometimes when you first start at a store, it starts out slow, and of course you may not make money right off the bat. That could take a few months, and also depending on the time of year, right? If you're in the holidays, you're going to do a little bit better, but you want to take a look at a span of time, and make sure that you are still making money on it, and that you're making if it's worth it for you, enough money to make it worth it for you. So in the store that I was in that bought my product practically at my retail price, that was like a best case scenario, and it's not something that happens a lot. And in fact, it wasn't something that lasted for a very long time. It was like a temporary pop-up type situation that this store owner had, and after some time it just became not worth it for her on her end. So we just that was the end of that business deal after that. But while we were doing it, it was awesome. But I just don't think things like that really exist. That was like a once in a lifetime sort of situation. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add in another extract here. Now, I'm not adding in a bunch of extracts because I'm using this Fision Hydratress. You guys have seen me use this in hair care products, but you can also use it in lotions and creams. And this is amazing because, again, in combination with the Jeequat that I told you has a combination of ingredients, this has a combination of ingredients. So we don't have to add a bunch of proteins and extracts because it's all in here, and it's a very good price. I got this one at Voyager Soap and Candle, and this has water, panthenol, so that's going to be great for your skin brightening properties. It's got hydrolyzed quinoa, protein, so that's going to give you a nice protein building block for your skin. It's got glycerin, so that's another humectant, and it's got pea seed extract. It's got also hyaluronic acid. So this is a great thing to just have on hand to add to your creams and lotions because it's got so much. And the hyaluronic acid in here makes a big difference. This particular product has made my skin feel really soft. So we're going to go ahead and add this in. So we're adding a lot of good ingredients in here, but minimal ingredients just because the things that I'm using here are combination ingredients and they work really well together. So we're going to go ahead and add in a little bit of this Fision Hydratress. I recommend you check this out over at Voyager. And after I pulled out of the stores and stopped with the wholesale accounts and was able to spend a little bit more quality time with my family and my kids, I feel like things felt so much better. And I never regret that time spent with them as they're getting older. My oldest is off to his 3rd year of college, and he doesn't live at home during the school year, so he lives out of state. So these years go by so fast. You will never regret spending more time doing the things that are meaningful to you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add in our ceramide and one more extract. Let's go ahead and add in the extract first. So I'm going to be using a little bit of coffee extract here. This is from Brambleberry. This is an oil-soluble extract. You guys have seen me use this before over at in my coffee infused oil. So we're using the coffee extract as an antioxidant, and it may contain a little bit of caffeine as well, which does kind of help to perk up the skin. Then we're going to go ahead and add in our Ceramide Complex. Now, this Ceramide Complex I got this at Lotion Crafter, but you can also find it at makingcosmetics.com. So your Ceramide Complex is going to add a beautiful skin barrier. This is a lovely ingredient to add because it's skin balancing. It's very much made up of the things that our own skin is made up of, and so it's got a beautiful balancing effect and it protects that delicate skin barrier, and it feels really good in your creams and lotions. Now, if you don't have this, or it's too much of a luxury item or too expensive, you can use any sort of like honey type product. Jeequat would be a good one and less expensive. You can use royal jelly if you have it. Royal jelly can be quite pricey as well, but I think you can find some pretty decently on Amazon. Royal jelly you have to be careful with how much you add in on both ceramide and royal jelly because they can reduce viscosity, so just be careful about how much you add. And then the last thing we're going to add in here is our preservative. Today we're using some liquid Dermal Plus. I'm using just a little bit of that. And then we're going to give this a stir by hand, and then we're going to stick blend it. So I would love to hear some of those things that you guys have maybe tried out in the past and stopped doing as your business has evolved. And I think this is probably true. Like I reassess my business model every now and again, and I think that's important to do that probably once a year or so. But definitely, we can talk about some things that I've tried that didn't work so well in future videos. But I would love to hear from you about what you think you want to hear me talk about next regarding small business. Okay, so now we're going to give this a good blend. Get all those ingredients blended in. So as you can tell, this is thickening up quite nicely. So the Ceramide Complex is going to include lipids that are very similar to your own skin makeup. So it's expensive. It's a luxurious product, but of course, if you learn to make this stuff versus buying it, it is going to be cheaper. after you've initially invested, but the amount that you can purchase can make you so much of it. So if you're into making cosmetics like I am and skincare and things like that, sometimes these luxury items can be more worth it. Something too that I never did, that I don't regret at all, I never took out any business loans for my business. I was very tempted to for probably the first 5 years of running the cosmetic and soap side of the business. I was just anxious to really get going on it, and I wanted to move in that direction and move out of teaching. And so there were several years where I wanted to take out a small business loan to just get everything I needed. And this was another good thing that I had my husband around to just really help me analyze that and decide if that was something that was worth my while, or do we just keep growing slow and steady and organically. And that is what we decided to do, and I've never regretted that. I've never regretted that. I'm so glad we don't have any small business loans, especially just as the economy has changed and things like that. It's nice to not have had done that. But it does take a long time to build your business. Okay, so the cream is now nice and emulsified and coming along very nicely. Still a little bit runny, so I'll show you what the finished product looks like, but we're going to go ahead and place this into some little 1 ounce pots. All right, we're just going to go ahead and place the cream into these little 1 ounce PET containers. It's still pretty warm, so I'm going to tell you right now the temperature is 90 degrees. This will continue to set up to a little bit thicker of a consistency than it is right now. So I'll show you what that looks like in another batch after we're done filling these. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm not going to place the lid on all the way. I'm just going to pop the lid on to cover it like that to allow air to kind of escape while it's cooling so we don't get condensation. And then I'm going to go ahead and set these aside to cool, but I'm going to show you what it looks like after it's completely set up and give you a little bit of a product demonstration. Okay, so I've been using this one now for a little bit, and this is what it looks like when it sets up. It's thick, it's substantial, it's not going to come out, but it also has a very good like slip to it. So I want to show you what I mean by that. You can see it's nice and shiny, and you just kind of pick a little bit up out of you don't even really need that much, but see how it's nice and scoopable. And it's kind of hard to describe because it doesn't have like okay, so creams made with like a stearic acid can feel a little more dense, which is good, you know, for other applications. But in this situation, this is thick, but it feels also lightweight and silky and airy. So substantial, yet not going to clog your pores or weigh anything down. So it feels very light. So we're just going to go ahead and, as you can see, no white streaking whatsoever. It just goes right into your skin. It feels beautifully hydrating and silky, lightweight, non-greasy. It just absorbs right in. So you know how sometimes some creams and lotions can go on your skin and they absorb so fast that they almost feel like not moisturizing enough, and then others feel a little bit too heavy and greasy and occlusive. This is a perfect balance, and it just feels very luxurious, and I think you're going to be really happy with this beautiful ceramide facial cream. So that's it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave some comments and questions below regarding the things that we talked about, or any other questions you have, or suggestions for other small business topics you want me to talk about. I have a lot of fun doing that, and I love connecting with you on that level. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share my video with a friend. As always, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye, everyone. Keep shining.